Well, turns out there actually are, we're at the beginning of a video here, but earlier on I noted that there weren't any tribals. There actually are tribal armies that I can place down, and I'll replace the armies on the map with that. The other person I know who did videos for this, Kyle, pointed that out to me. I didn't see it because they're over here in my little storage bag. Didn't need brown for anything in this scenario. Didn't notice that that was the color they chose for the tribal armies. And really it could be just about any color except for one of the ones that's tied specifically to a nation, I guess. Because, you know, the Tarantiums don't have they're tribal as well. And it's just that the Samnites are the main player in this scenario. They'd be tribal in their own sense too, but in most of the scenarios you've got, you know, a reasonably civilized power facing Rome. Okay, and we're ready to start a new turn. This is the third turn. That's why I got my dice on top of the chip there. So now I'm at the assignment of leaders phase. For the Romans, this is complicated. I'll get to the Samnites. I could do them real quickly. I'm going to try to keep him on. And I succeed with a 0. And what about this other guy? He's not terribly interesting. Let's let him disappear, but he'll be number 1. I got 4 of them, I think. We'll get whoever's at the bottom of the stack here. That is P. Brutulus. Oh, I hope that's not who I had. So Mantilius is replaced with Brutulus. And you can see not much in the way of differences here. I'm not quite sure. I want to get the guys, the counters that I need. I'll just replace him here. I don't have a great choice with any of this. They're all pretty lousy. I'll be getting the augury and the siege counters back. We'll worry about the others as we go. Okay. I don't have to worry about the tribals. They don't have real leaders of that sense. Now I have to try to remember who's who here. And this is hard. Was Barbula? Okay. Flacinator was, I believe, my dictator. He will not be able to repeat. Nor can I prorogue him as a proconsul, as far as I can tell. I will be getting another dictator. I'm allowed that. Rulinius was my master of horse. He may, not must, be giving command. Yeah. So it doesn't say anything about him being allowed to continue, but only consuls seem to be able to continue on as proconsuls from what I can see. I had it somewhere. I may designate a consul or proconsul who has never won a triumph and is not in play. But I can somewhere I had this here. Shit. Now I've lost track of where it is. These rules are really poorly handled, but basically my understanding of it is the 2 consuls can be kept on as proconsuls. If I had a praetor or a proconsul, I could keep them on by proroguing them. The praetor ends up as a propraetor. I don't have either of them though. So Corvus, okay. This guy's easy. He's the Publius Urbanus. He's assigned and placed in Rome. Well, he's got to be one or the other. And I'm not going to have leaders not with their armies. That just seems stupid, although that may be what they're intending there. So I have 2 others of those. I don't think that there's any restriction on them repeating. So 1, 2, 3. I get a 3 for that. So I'll take the bottom guy there. And I think he doesn't have a counter, actually. Maybe he's supposed to. Maybe there's one piled under there. I'll have to search through all the counters. Oh! No, that's Campania. Yeah, I'll have to look to see because he hasn't had an order yet. Okay, Flacinator's my dictator. He came off the map. I don't remember who was here. I think Curvus is the master of horse. As far as I'm concerned, he cannot be continued. I haven't seen any rules that allows him to, but he's also not precluded from holding a position. Barbula. Yeah. I've got these written down. Hey, I was smart. Now I just have to find that. It's somewhere under all this shit. And I can't move it. Alright, cutting down. I'm sorry. Flacinator was the Equus. He's the one who gets replaced here. Who did I have? Curvus. Curvus was the Rome Council. Now, where the hell was he? I don't know. I have no idea. I totally lost control of whatever the hell was going on with these things. Okay, I've got, this guy is fine. And these are all in the same damn hex here. Here, I left Barbula here. Barbula was the dictator. He cannot have a command. Curvus must have been either here or here. And since Flacinator was out in the field, I'm saying this was Curvus. So let's keep looking. Those are these 2. Alias is still there, so I'm going to not have a commander over here. That was, is that right? No, because those were the armies that hit. This was, so Curvus is here. And Flacinator was here because this was the Equus's pile, I think. I don't know. Barbulus was here. He was the dictator. So I can continue Curvus on. He's not that bad. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make Curvus, who knows which army he had, 7 or 8. We'll be able to tell here he had 8, or sorry, 3. Jesus. This is fucking obnoxious, I'll tell you that. There just isn't quite enough support for what's going on here. We're going to remove him. We proconsul him. And he is going to add 1 proconsular marker. Now this is weird because like the 2 consuls and all the proconsuls each share their own little pool. So like if there's only one consul, if there's only one proconsul in the game, his ability is all that matters, but if there's multiple of them, you can kind of use the initiative from another one for the first one, just like you can with the consuls. So it does actually kind of, and whether or not you remove things, like when I lost that consul, maybe I was supposed to lose the a lamb out of there as well. I'm not sure. Okay, but anyway, that's what's happening with him. He's being made into a proconsul, so I get to keep him on the board. Now over with this stack, I have Rufinus. He's my field counsel. I like him a lot. Do I have to roll a fucking die or something? Let me look that up. I can't find the damn roll anymore. I just had it. You know, about 2 minutes before I started speaking, I had found it, and now it's gone. I can't find the damn roll, and I mean, I've spent another 10 minutes looking for it. I found a hint towards it, which is not what I read. I can swear that to you, which is this... while some proconsuls were assigned, many were consuls who were prorogued, kept in office without being elected in the provinces in which they had their army, and then it goes to discuss that, which makes it sound like you'd have to bring your army home if you're not prorogued, like the army gets disbanded or something if you don't keep the person there, or something along those lines, which is obviously not covered in here. I don't know where I found it before. I can't tell. I've looked in both rule books because sometimes it's easier to, well, it's always easier to find things in a bound rule book, and that's actually where I think I found it than it is in this spread of papers that just causes a fucking mess across my life, which is why I hate living rules. Get it right the first time, folks, or you know, offer a reprint. Anyway, and there's too much in this game to fix this. So basically anybody who bought this game got an incomplete game because this thing is a mess. And apparently there's a version 2.0 which is more significant changes. This one has its problems, there's no question. Plus it's not a solid rule book, you know. I don't know. All right. I don't know where the hell I am now. So I'm going to keep. I'm not going to get upset about it. I'm going to fake it because it's not worth looking up the rules, you know. So Rufinus was also a one thing I did was with Curvus. I have promoted him to a proconsul and combined the consular armies that were there. I think I can do that. I can do it during normal actions. I'm not sure why here. That means I need to combine these two, and now I feel like I'm cheating because I'm keeping proconsuls when I have councils. My feeling is I'm going to have to assign the councils there, and the proconsuls are going to essentially be dismissed. So I do have to find something about all of this because it doesn't make sense to me to be able to just prorogue consuls who are in Latinium as proconsuls. They've not won any triumphs. There's nothing to really recommend them. And I'm going to have a ton of extra officers kicking around. Now, of course, I can split the consular armies as I did before, but it just seems thoroughly unbelievable. So I don't know what the hell to do. I found it. It's under prorogued, but it may have been eliminated from this one. I don't know. I can't tell because this thing's such a mess. This is 535. I wouldn't put it past them to screw it up worse. God, I hate loose leaf shit. And binding it myself wouldn't help, like stapling it or something, because it's not a regular book. It'll flop all over and be a fucking mess. Oh, here it is. Yeah. A consul from the previous year may also be prorogued as a proconsul to his province of assignment. This decision is made before assigning or drawing proconsuls, so make sure you leave any magistrates you wish to prorogue where they are. I simply state that they are. Well, here's the problem. He has to be given a command. There's not going to be a command available because the first thing I do is I pick a dictator. So I've put the Master of Horse and Buggy in the cup. Rutilius, shit, I think he's over here. I would love to prorogue him. This is the first and second consular armies. There's too much here for everyone, but there's not room for a proconsul. I might get a praetor in one of those armies if I somehow didn't end up with enough people. So I think what I do at this point is I populate the cup. I'm going to pick myself a dictator, and then I'm going to decide whether or not to pick myself a master of horses if I don't want the dictator to be in command of an army. That's how I read it. It's kind of screwed up because the dictator sounds like he has to stay in Rome, and the fact that Rome's sieged, or no, it's not even sieged, so no biggie there. And then I have to pick 2 consuls, and I'm just not going to be able to fill all the positions there. I'm not going to have enough armies left for the additional positions after that. So I put everybody in the cup, and that's always kind of the fun part, right? Filling the cup and emptying the cup. There's a lot of little mechanical shit in here, and a lot of rules shit, and not a lot of game going on. Now, I don't mind that. I like all this chrome, and it almost feels reasonable. In a sense, I prefer this to Imperium Romanum because there's all this crap to do. But maybe it's just that I'm, so busy with this that and dealing with and learning it, that I'm not really too worried about how good the game is underneath. So this is my dictator. I have to pick him first, and I get Flacinator. What the hell was Flacinator? He was the Equus. Flacinator is decent. He's got a guile. I would kind of like the dictator to be in Rome. Of course, the Rome Council could be in Rome, but the dictator is the true overall commander. And there's a weird situation because there's like multiple levels of overall commander, which makes things really, really confusing. But it's just to try to impose a ranking hierarchy in the game where there isn't one otherwise. Like none of the others have that. They have an overall commander and lots of people who pretty much serve the same purpose as each other. So Flacinator is going to be my dictator. And I don't know if this is legitimate. But he has a point of guile. And I gotta kind of, I don't know, throw that off the map here. I'll just throw both of those off the map. Eventually he's gonna get an army, but we've got some real problems here. All right, he gets to pick a master of horse. Do I want one? It's going to be completely random who I pick, basically. But you know what? So are the Roman field councils. And this way I can keep an extra council in Rome. I don't know how much it helps. Here's my master of horse. My master of horse is a good guy. It's Muse. He's the guy who's supposed to kill himself. Okay. And you know what I did? I forgot to count my dictator to see how good he is. Flacinator gets 2 chits. He's actually a pretty decent general. I probably should have put him in the field, but I don't have the hang of things. The proconsul marker is not yet out there. I'm probably not going to get that. Muse gets his 2 chips as master. 2 chips as master as horses, and I need that. Now, what position am I going to give him? He's a pretty decent leader. Actually, not as good as my dictator. Nah, he's as good as my dictator. He's a D-level leader. This is the bigger force. I'm going to give him command here. I'm not going to be able to keep Rutlians with his 2 big guile in the field. And now I've got to find, who did I just add? Jesus. Well, there he is, Muse. Muse has actually a point of guile. And Master of Equus, and he's going to be in command, I guess, of the big First Legion. I got room for someone else there, but I can't make... as far as I can tell, Rutilianus, I can't reduce him to a 1 consular army position. I could get a praetor there, and I probably will not have to because I'm going to have extra consuls. But I'm not sure because the Rome Council... crap. Now I need these somewhere. The Council for Rome is placed in Rome. But he can then be assigned anywhere where there's a consular army without a thing. And then he moves to it as per RRR 5.34. Okay, is that something special? Okay. So yes, these guys are all supposed to start in Rome, I guess. He's placed either in Rome or with a consular army. So I kind of screwed this up. So like a dictator, he won't be with his troops if you assign him. He has to take an extra move. And that's why it's important to have a proconsul out there, I guess. God knows, though. Okay, so I just assigned the Master Equum. Now I have the Field Council, who can be put... Okay, so the Field Council can be sent to a province with which there's a consular army that doesn't, and he is placed with that army immediately. But the Rome Council will not be given, and the dictator cannot just fly out to their military command, which is a reason, I don't know. But then elsewhere, it talks about... In the discussion, great, my rulebook's falling apart because it's fucking loose leaves. And there's no way I could page through it if it was stapled together or something. A dictator was allowed to choose an assistant only if the dictator stays in Rome and does not assume a field command of an army outside Rome. So I think I cheated last time by marching out of Rome with my dictator and having a master of Equus. You know, and I can't even remember where these fucking pieces are anymore. Okay. So it's going to take me like an hour to figure out, you know, this step each turn until someday I actually maybe get it. Maybe not the actual rules, but I get it down to pattern. So we have our dictator in Rome. We have our master of horse and buggy over here. Now the next thing we have to choose is our Rome Council. Now our Rome Council automatically has to go to Rome. We don't have a Rome Council. We don't have an army in Rome. So we pick someone new and we get Rutilius. Is he allowed? Oh yeah. I don't know. He may not be the guy I'm thinking of. Rutilianus, I think, was the guy who's special. Rutilius doesn't look at all impressive. So he's going to be my Rome Council. And he has no guile and just pretty much sucks. And I grab a Rome Council marker. I'm going to put that on top of him. You could say, why does Flacinator not have it on top? Well, because he's the dictator, and that's going to cause a problem. Oh, and I get one council marker in here for him. Now I get my Field Council, who's probably going to take the other large army, because I can't put him in charge of that small little piece that the Master of Horse has. And I get P.T. Barnum. Lebo. Well, that's not going to be terribly helpful either. He's going to be my Field Council, and he is in charge of Unit 3. And Curvius has to go back. Well, we got some crappy leaders here. He does have a point of guile, though, so he's not as bad as anything. What does the 1 mean? Is that good or bad? I think I went high on that. What army is that? 3. Okay, we don't have a proconsul. We have a Rome Council at Army 3. And he's okay taking his other dude with him. Who happens to be the dude who belongs in Rome, who maybe is not... No, he is assigned to the Urban Legion and placed in Rome. Well, great. So we don't have a commander to that. Okay, fine. Whatever. We'll put him back here too. He's going to have to go find his command. Jesus fucking Christ. Goddamn piles. Okay. Well, off goes the camera so I can fix the stack. And we're back. Alright. We got all our councils. Now we've got a problem. We need a praetor. We need a praetor to command Consular Army 2. Because Consular Army 2 can't combine with whatever hell is here, which is Consular Army 1 under Muse. So Consular Army 2 gets this Arvina dude. And that means I need to find a praetor marker, which have to be here for him. He's going to get 2 counters. Geez, do I have the right number of counters for everyone? I don't know. I think so. And he's a pretty cool dude, actually. And he'll be in command of this. And he has a point of guile, which I don't have enough chits for. I'll give him one of these. The game just doesn't come with enough. Alright, that was fun. I don't know what those in revolt markers are for. Tribes in revolt, I guess. That's the only thing I can think of. And we might as well put them on the map. That just help us, remind us, I guess. I don't see them as terribly useful. But Apulia's in revolt, and Etruria is in revolt. I mean, the big thing is the armies are there, but that's okay. All right. Did we get everyone? Okay, I don't think anyone continued, so nobody gets a die roll for themselves. And I think that filled out the slot for this of the magistrate picking. And you can see what's negative about this game already. You need to see the rule book. Is all this shit with picking these things is just a pain in the ass. We can also see why we don't have to make survival checks on leaders, because you only have to check the ones who you're trying to keep in office. And yes, we were considering keeping ones in office, but and we would have had to check them, I guess, if we had actually intended to, because that could cause some issues where maybe a proconsul would have to be assigned at random or something. But we were unable to fill those positions. Like we needed the leaders. We needed those positions for our leaders, and now I've got shit that I don't know. This is a proconsul, and these guys are going in the cup. And I think that's going to be the whole cup, except I've got this field council, who should have a marker. I think that's Libo, who is with the 3rd Army. The 8th Army is my Urban Legion, so I don't have him there. Gotta count my council points. That's 1. Is Moose a council? No. Arvina is a proconsul. think I should only have 2 councils on the board. And that's what I have, so wherever that went, that shouldn't be here. I got confused there, but I don't know if that belongs there anymore. The field council, yes, he has a guile, and hopefully I'm okay there. I don't know what Army 2 is. Wait, who is this? Army 2 is Arvina. He should be my praetor. Where'd his fucking counter go? I pulled a praetor counter, didn't I? God damn it. He should have one of these on him. And, you know, it's pretty obvious that people did not do a lot of kind of blind testing on this, in the sense of being handed this game. And that's the case with everything modern. No one really worried about getting this ready for real publication. My hope is, I've heard things that Carthage is a little bit cleaner. Maybe they provide more player aids and such not in it. I should look for that. I should look in it to see if it has counters or player aids or anything that I can kind of steal. I also know the rules got rewritten for it. And that's what the 2.0 rules for Rise are really to do, is to handle the difference with the 2.0 rules that were needed for the core rules for Carthage. I want to get all those papers off the map. Ah, crap. Okay, I got to write everybody down. And then I've done my land pool. Well, before I write everyone down, since I'm on camera right now, and I've used up about half the turn, about half the effort in the turn at least, on that one phase, figuring out where the hell people go. And that's the game. That is what this is all about, basically, is playing and rolling with the Romans. The rest of the game isn't all that complex. There's some interesting ideas in it. Okay, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the tribal revolt. That's in this book. Is this the right scenario? Yes. Okay, so here I actually roll for this. How many legions over 4 are outside Roman-controlled provinces? That would be none. So on an 8 or more, we get a revolt, and we do not. And that's what should happen every turn, is this check to see, you know, if I roll on the revolt table. But the auguries can cause that. These go in the cup. I rewrite the names. I go out for a swim, maybe come back tonight and play a little bit more. So the first chick pull of the turn is good old Pontius, and actually it was this siege attrition. Nobody's under siege. Pontius is in an interesting position. First of all, he's the leader, and I haven't raised Samnite troops because I keep using him because he's good, and I don't have a lot of forces. I could just raise Samnites with his activation, and I've actually got a pretty good chance there. Not on the table anymore. Ooh, this is helpful. I had a lot of trouble finding the towns. It's a gazetteer of all the different locations and what hex they're in. But basically, I'm under 50 strength points total of Samnite, so I'd have a pretty good chance of getting a pile more troops if I took that initiative. But I keep having other things I want to do, and that's really kind of the problem. The Romans have this ability with all their leaders that they can throw the overall commander into just raise troops. La la la. So I'm going to, I think I'm going to try to attack Libo here. Now I don't remember. Libo is Army 3, which is, he's the praetor. He doesn't look like a terribly good commander there. And his forces are disrupted. But you know, the penalty for an attacker having disrupted forces is worse than that for a defender. So I think what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to have just Pontius attack them. However, the defender's penalty isn't that high, and I've got a troop advantage there. I don't know if I should have the Urban Legion in its own command. I feel like I should, because the Urban Praetor is and yeah, I keep changing my pronunciation, is back in Rome. And he's got to go take command of it. So it does help signify that there is a separate command. So I think we're going to do that, and the Romans are going to take the battle. I still don't have a great feel, and I don't know if you ever can, to, hey, do I have good odds at this battle? It's not like, you know, I got 3-1, I got it, you know, that you can usually feel in a war game. Because there's all the mods, and then there's the big 10-sided die that randomizes things a lot. But then there's also the Romans just can crank out troops, and if I'm causing attritional losses, that may be better than running from combat. So we're going to take a quick look at this. First of all, we haven't done it in a while on camera, so I'm going to do it. The tactical leader adjustment. Our leaders, Pontius is leaving Apulia behind and not going to try to coordinate with them. So we check our leaders, and we've got a C, and we roll for what he gets there. So he's going to get a 5-point bonus, and the other guy's got a D, the Roman, and he gets a 1. So right now I'm at +4 for the attack. Roman command effects. Is he over his efficiency? He has an efficiency of D. He's allowed to command 3 different legions, or 3 different double legions, I think is what it officially is, yeah. But, and his command is this and this, which is only 2 legions. He does get to use the other guy's units, even if the other guy's not there, I guess. So he's not going to get a further penalty from that. Subordinate battle points, I don't think we have any subordinate leaders involved. Combat ratio adjustment. Well, here I have to do some quick counting, right? So 18, 22, 26 to 8, 18, 19. 26 to 19. That is not going to quite be 1.5 to 1. So it's just going to be a 1-to-1. That leaves us at 0. Roman discipline. I don't have any veterans here. There's no elites. After battle status. So the Samnites are fine. The Romans are disrupted. So that'll give another point for the Samnites. I'm expecting a package. Nothing game related, but the terrain, it's not a river, that's the only terrain effect listed. No interception, none of this stuff can take effect. I forgot about cav superiority though. I see the chart there. So I've got 4 Samnite cav versus only 2 Roman cav. And I'm in rough terrain. We don't have a big enough differential for it to make a difference. And that's also the same value after combat that's going to be used for pursuits if one happens. You recalculate it though based on how much cav is left. So I've got a +5 to the die roll. That's pretty nice. I rolled pretty damn crappy though. So we're each going to take 20%. And here we divided it into different groups. 22 infantry. And I say 20%, that's 4 hits. Which I have to take. I think it's every 7 that's got to be cav. That may be attrition though. It is so much to remember. But we're getting kind of there. Where it's starting to make sense. Cav. Oh, no. The cav takes its own losses. That's right. It's its own contingent. And I did that. What did we say? 20% of 1822 is going to be 4 losses. That'll be this marker. Let's put it here for now. It's not doing any loss. And then 4 for the cav at 20% is 1. And for the Romans, well, I actually add the infantry first, and that's 17 at 20%, which will be 4. I got to take 2 from each consular army. I'll put a 5 over in the one army, and yes, this is all very finicky. And then I think I only have 2 cav here for whatever reason, which isn't going to be effective. Both took 20% losses in a draw, so both are going to be fully disorganized. Well, they're already disrupted here, but what we do is I grab a couple disorg markers, and it's going to be kind of hard, you know, to some extent you got to remember things, how to place guys there, and these are both in the same hex, which is painful. All right, that was the end of a drawn battle, in which case we look at the other chart, and you can see where a pile of papers, why I moved them away. I was not the winner, but I was also not the loser. What does that mean? Shit, I don't know. I'm going to have to look in the updated rules, because we are neither a winner nor a loser here. The rules actually do spell that out as loser or draw. So I will probably update that on the chart. Let's see. Winner, not winner. Put in draw in there. Skins are the next pick, and without anybody in Rome, I'm dropping them under siege. That's only a 7 value there. Now I have no chance to continue, but that kind of forces, first of all, I can't raise troops in Rome. I can raise troops in Roman provinces still, in Latium especially. I don't think they actually own Campania. But that means I can't strengthen the defenses, and that's going to force the attack this way, maybe take some pressure off this force, whatever. It seems like a better move than laying siege to this, which would force them to come out and attack as well, but might be less advantageous overall, because I have a chance of winning the game if Rome falls. It also traps important people inside the city, like the dictator, and I think the Rome Council and the urban praetor, which hampers some of what Rome can do. I can still use the dictator to raise troops elsewhere, but then I don't have all my leaders in place. So, you know, there would be a chance that a big Roman army will step up and just slam out, and although I can't actually lead it with the dictator, I cheated when I did that, I think. Okay, good old Pontius got another activation, and this time I fled into the city. Now, I'm not besieged there, we're just in the same hex, just as before, but I succeeded in rolling my continuation after moving, and now I'm going to be clever enough to actually roll for the manpower. Like I said, we're under 50. There aren't any modifiers to this that I'm aware of. So I make a quick roll, and I'm going to get 16 infantry and 2 cav. And, well, that'll be Army 2. I don't have a commander for it. I'll drop this down. Yeah, I don't know if I want to be behind the river. I'll drop this here. So 16 infantry and 2 cav. I'm not sure if I have anything else I want to do, though. That's kind of the problem. I mean, I could dip and pull myself a diplomat to try to improve things. That might not be a bad idea. Let's see if I get a continuation. What the hell? I'm pretty good at it. Yeah, I do. I can't do ally movement because the units that are allies are they have their own commanders. I could involuntarily surrender. That's forcing the other person to, I believe. Yeah, let's try a diplomacy action. So here I roll on my remaining leaders, I believe. And I'm going to send one of them as a diplomat. I've got either 2 or 3 or 4 of them. I have 3. Okay, that's this guy. He has a diplomacy rating of D. I had to declare where I'm sending him. I should put those troops into play too, right? No leader in them. And I'm not allowed to draw for another one. The Romans have a lot of capability to do so. I could, of course, slip this guy back out, because I think he can sneak through enemy territory. I don't know. Okay, so where would I have wanted to go? I would have wanted to go into a Roman allied area. Let's go for... Lucania is not particularly interesting. Piscium? I don't know where that is. That's over here. That's not very easy to get to. Sabinius. Let's go for Sabinus, because that'll give us troops that we could operate right off the bat. So I'm going to use my D factor diplomacy. And I'm going to put him here. This is all he can do this turn. So he's not going to be available. I could actually throw him over here. And we'll try our diplomacy if I can find it. Here's my ambassador rating. And this is going to determine how many boxes I move. I roll a die for comparing it to a D, and I suck at that. Oh, I have an additional penalty here. Shit, I totally didn't want to do this. Okay, let's see. We should not have done this. Samnite leaders, Samnite diplomacy. So I add 1 to all diplomacy related die rolls. That's pretty bad. Is this Papias Brutius? I don't know. So this was a bad choice. Well, I get a 9 or more, which is a disaster. And I roll again, and this will be a +1. And I roll a 9. Turmoil in the area cancels audience. Ambassador sticks around, but it will cost the player another guile point. Oh, I had to pay a guile for that. Yeah, that wasn't a good idea. In another diplomacy operation to arrange the audience and roll on diplomacy table again. Yeah. I think I'm done. I did enough damage. It could have been much worse than it was. A disaster actually turned out to be less bad than some of the other effects. You know, certainly I didn't move any boxes, so that's kind of cool. Alrighty, let's pick another counter then, I guess, because I can't recuperate my troops. And we're gonna get the Roman Praetor. How useful is that? Who is that? That's going to be Consular Army 2, which is over here. Well, I could swap that with Army 1 now, because again, it's a bigger army, and I'd have to give at least half the forces to Moose. So I think I'm useless. And I have a pretty decent Praetor there. It's the dictator. We need troops. That's going to be our goal. So we're going to ask this legions. We're going to ask for legions. And I don't remember how to do this again. Current legions in existence. How many do I have down? 2, 4. It's either 5 or 6. That's on the best table. The dictator's making the request. That's +1. +2 for being in Rome. The dictator has no guile. Oh yeah, he does. But plus, well, I can only go up to a certain amount, and I think I've got a lot of bonuses, so I'm keeping that guile for the siege, I guess. So what are we on? +2. No major victories. 40 within 5 hexes of Rome. This might be 40 at this point. 17, 21, 39, 40, yes. So that puts me to +4. I'm pretty good here. Looks like I'm at +4. -5, which is the highest I can get. So I'm going to get 2 new legions. I'm not going to get a leader for them. But this is just a Praetor, isn't he? And I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but in the Carthage rolls, I could have continued my council as a Praetor, as opposed to as a proconsul, and given him a smaller force. But that's not an option. That's not explicitly an option in this role. So what did I say I had here? This guy's a Praetor. So he's not going to be able to command that extra force. I don't have people here. I'm going to probably build them here just because that's the best place that I have right now. So I'll build another consular army, and I can actually assign a proconsul in mid-game. It's going to have to take one of these manpower actions, though. And then I don't remember what my legion size is. I think I've screwed it up at various times. 13 and 2, or I don't know. It's different from most scenarios. 11 and 2. So I'll set those up. After I set them up, I'm going to attempt a continuation, assuming manpower allows that. I think it does. Yep. And I will not get a continuation, so I'll just be setting those up for the dictator. I will not be getting additional. You can only do 1 manpower event per turn, so no biggie there. I have no way of... All I'd be doing is throwing extra troops that I can pull out of play, that I can pull into play at some later time. We've gotten a hell of a battle here. Brutilius got his chit drawn, and he marches across the river trying to get to this city, hit the disorganized troops. I figure maybe Brutilius can even can actually beat disorganized units, because he's really crappy. He's got an E rating. He's just terrible overall. But the disorganized forces intercept him at the river. That's going to force him to fight with the river penalty. Achillea's tribal forces coordinate in, even though they're disrupted. Overall, I think that's going to help. I didn't want to bring disorganized forces in. That's a step too much. But then Muse is able to coordinate in from here at Frigilii. And we've got one heck of a battle with a lot of troops that aren't in great shape. We'll see how that all turns out. Oh, that worked out pretty well for the Samnites. They won a major victory. They got a continuation actually with that same leader, and he took the tribals back, went back to the city. The entire Roman army under Moose is over here, all useless. And that, you know, as long as I'm tying down the whole of the Roman army, it's going to make it hard to take that the Etruscans out of there. It's almost as if I'm misplaying. I think I am misplaying by not by paying any attention to what's going on down here. I should have just let that army get wiped out and focused on the thing I need to win. Instead, what's happened is everything isn't useless here. There's one unit that's not. Yeah, the first legion, or first consular army, a couple of legions in it, the veteran legions, that's actually in good shape. That couldn't come along because it was disordered, so I didn't want to bring, well, it wouldn't have hurt because I had damaged troops already there. But I figured, well, I'd bring the undamaged units in Those units would have actually helped the die roll by a couple of points. I got a near perfect bad die roll. Gave me the net was 15% losses for the Romans. They had like a -1, so I got like a 2 on the die roll or something. It was really quite bad. And major victory that affected the independence. You can see they're shifting, including Campania, away from Rome. Rome's picks a couple of consuls, and they both say Rome Council on them. This is actually kind of a problem because there is a title Rome Council. I know that I was kind of misreading it. I think, oh, well, the Rome Council can't do anything. He's in Rome. So, but they went through a number of recovery actions there. The Rome Council, the Praetor, and also the Magistrate Equus. Beginning to get that army into a shape where it could actually do something if I get another draw. But then terrible news struck and an augury came up. Bach. And that ended up being the Gauls. And the Gauls have some 16 strength points of infantry, 4 cav. Not really worse than than one of the Italian tribes. In fact, they could be kind of problematic if they don't have a place they could go through. They're not allied with the Samnites specifically. They can't stack with them or anything, but they can move through Samnite controlled territory without getting attacked by the natives. So the Etrurians are not going to be a problem for them, and they can actually coordinate with them, but they can't actually stack with them for movement and such now. Now they're going to leave the game when they enter Rome, or if they're defeated in a battle. And if you recall, defeating a tribal entity in a battle dissolves the ground forces for the tribe. So it's the same for the Gauls. The problem, though, is what about entering Rome? That will end the game. That's not just the Gauls leave. If the Samnites get Rome, if they sack Rome in any way, it's over. So we really don't want the Gauls to make it that far. I thought, well, that'll get them out easily. Nah, never mind. All right. I don't know if they'd have to actually conquer it or whatever. But anyway, that gives me a Gallic force that is of some potential use. And I'm most of the way through the cup. Still not far enough that I feel comfortable. Hey, let's just finish this turn real quick. So I'll take another break. Little things, and I don't know if these were in the rules or not. The rules are filled with so many little things that they slip aside. So if you don't pay attention to the charts, you don't necessarily see them. But the attrition results table, I see there's adjusted strength points. How are they adjusted? Well, infantry and elephants have no adjustments, but cavalry are going to be doubled. The reason I wanted to point this out is I'm about to move my Gauls, or I started moving them. There, the little chit came up. And I kind of wanted to show, actually, how far they can move, what kind of costs, and what it means, because it's fairly cheap. Now, these roads don't really exist. So, for me to move through northern Etruria is going to cost me 2 action points, and then 1 over here to cross this river. But I don't have to do that. I could just whip around down here, right? Because it's not a per hex cost or anything like that. That's kind of weird. It means that basically, as long as you have the access around here, well, you've got such a free hand that maybe it's not a big deal crossing the river. At least that's how I'm getting this, and that's, I don't know. Yep, it's within or into each province. And that's fine. Okay, so I've paid 2 to move basically through northern Etruria, and I'll go through southern, and that's going to cost me 3 more. I'll put me up to 5. As long as I don't go through this river, but here I'm going to have to cross a river. That puts me up to 6. I'm not getting any reductions, even though this is kind of allied territory. Even the Etrurians don't get an advantage. And now I'm down here. So far I've picked up 6 attrition points. That's pretty big. I I've got 16, 20, 24 because I double those. 6 attrition, that's about as far as I want to go. So I'm going to stop there. But I'm going to roll for a continuation, because if I get a fairly easy roll, a 5, I get to keep going. Now these are crappy troops with an E leader. I'm done. Mistake on something else. Where I said only 1 manpower operation per campaign phase. A campaign phase is a single chit draw, so the dictator pulling one of these means I can try to generate some more manpower. In this case, what I'm going to generate is a new leader. I have forces down here that could use a leader. In case the dictator had to spend his guile. Now I've got a guile kicking around somewhere that's not with a guile marker, in order to bring that new leader in. I get the leader. He is a proconsul. I don't believe there are any proconsuls in the cup. And he was given the elite legions, actually. That means there's no chance of him operating on his own. Now he can of course transfer commands and such on, but you know, in case the Master of Horse wants that. But now the Master of Horse has a really, really big army here that's under his overall command. Not directly under him, he's got a bunch of leaders with him. But he could probably do a lot of damage. Another thing is, though, it's better not to take damaged units with you that are, you know, disorganized or whatever. But he may have a decent enough force that he could actually launch an attack with reasonable units on one of these 2 stacks. This one being, well, these guys are all in the city, so they're not really out there available to be hit. Kind of sucked. I drew the magistrate Equus. Moose defined a force, marched it up. Yeah, I didn't check the attrition. I tracked it. It's only 1.5, which I think means it would have to be like 60 points to be a problem, and it's more in the range of 40. He's actually got 2 big forces here. He took the field council with him, with the other good force, to move forward. Field council doesn't help him. He didn't really have anybody who would help him, though. Unfortunately for him, he failed in what he's actually fairly good at, which is actually launching an attack. He failed at his continuation after he moved into the hex with the Etrurians. Had he caught them, the Gauls would have had a chance to coordinate into that battle. And it could have been a big mother of a battle. But as it stands now, what we've got is kind of this mess where these guys are in Rome, not in the city, but outside the city, along with the Etrurians, who are sieging the city, but the Romans weren't able to actually launch an attack. A couple siege attrition chits came up in a row. You can see Rome's down to a 5, and significant losses, I think like 8 points of losses or something to the tribe, just off of the siege attrition roll. You know, eventually Rome will get weak, but maybe that army will be too weak to stay there beyond that. I got the support of the Gauls, though, which will help a bit. The cup's empty. So as we move into turn 4 here, there was a lot of recovery everywhere. You can see the Romans here even recovered. The Samnites are completely recovered. This is not completely recovered, but that's pretty much the status we're in. The siege is continuing. There's a question of, is there anybody who wasn't doing anything? And I'm not absolutely certain if their answer to that is yes. There's a possibility somebody here or here never moved, but I don't think so. This guy did not move. That one I'm sure of. And that's got some 7 strength points in it. And it's going to be taking inertia attrition. Now it takes, I think, a cost equal to the region, which is just 2, so it's not going to have any real chance of falling. If it's doubled, it's 4, which I think may have been the case, but it's way in the 0 realm there. It's not going to take attrition. It's tough. I mean, if you leave a big army parked, you got to worry about it, but with smaller forces like that are off doing something, you don't need to check. And then if there was some small force in one of these stacks, by small, even a consular legion, which is going to be maybe 20 points over here, well, it's not going to hit high enough that it's going to be causing a problem there. So we'll send this one up, and that's the end of 3.